In the last episode, we explored Sasuke and Karin beginning their training in the Fire Temple, where they decided it would be best to stay, given that they were not able to take care of themselves on their own. Their life was happy for a time. That's when it happened. 4 mysterious shinobi appeared in the graveyard Sora had been guarding and jumped him. Chukaku, the elderly sage who had been personally caring for Sasuke and Karin, went to face them, but in the end he fell and the bodies were taken. Sasuke and Karin have so far been taking it pretty hard, but the truth of what has happened is only just now about to be discovered. Will Sasuke and Karin be able to fulfill their mentor's duty, or will they once again lose the family they've so loved? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The temple grounds were covered in at least an inch of water. Drainage system needs to be unclogged, Karin said as she watched. The rain had not let up. It was as if the heavens were crying over the death of Chukaku. It had been around 40 hours since Chukaku had perished, and the temple did not have time to mourn. There was something rather important going on. Those bodies were very important, and Karin didn't know why, but whatever it was, the retrieval of those bodies was paramount, and any emotion that would have been spent reflecting on the life, legacy, and whole Chukaku left behind was now being funneled into rage and the need to find the enemy. There's an old belief of the Sith Lords of Star Wars about rage. It's said to give you focus, make you stronger. And though the Sith are wrong in their morality, their ideals on the usefulness of emotion are valid. Karin was learning this now. Their tears were channeled into scowls. Those scowls had not slept since the event and would not rest until it was over. Even now, they stood in the rain, pointing about. What were they pointing at? What was being ordered to be done? Karin couldn't hear it over the slaps of the water pellets striking the standing water, but whatever the orders were, they must have been important. All day, monks were seen leaving the temple. Scariest of all, they were carrying weapons. The monks here were generally pacifists, but suddenly they had forgotten this and were now taking up arms to kill. As she reflected on this, her mind's eye of the Kagura detected something approaching her from behind. It was a familiar energy, normally a bouncing ball of warm golden light, now a downtrodden shape of blue, barely dragging itself. She turned around to see Sasuke standing there. "Hey, champ, what's up?" Karin asked. Sasuke seemed sad. He had only now just woken up. He hadn't slept well, which was obvious. He'd been crying all night, so she let him sleep in a little to catch up on what he lost. She guided him around and then let him sit in her lap. The two of them watched the monks. Nothing was really said. What could Karin say anyway? That everything would be okay? It was true that it would, but all the same, Sasuke wouldn't understand, nor would he even care if he did. The only thing she could try to do was take his mind off of it. A nefarious grin crept across her face as she raised her hand up. She licked her finger before inserting it into his ear. "Ha ha," she laughed. "Wet willy." Sasuke had no reaction, no laugh, no disgust. It was as if he didn't care in the slightest. Karin's shoulders drooped as she wiped her finger and his ear for him. She hugged him a little tighter, placing her chin in his hand. "It's okay, kiddo, you still got me." "For how long?" he questioned, catching her off guard. "For how long? Well, forever." Suddenly they were interrupted by Sora. "Guys, Chiriku needs us in his office." Karin nodded. "Tell him we'll be there in a moment." She then turned her attention to Sasuke. "Sasu, look at me." He didn't move. She lifted him up off her lap and turned him around. "Sasu." He looked up at her. "I'm not going anywhere, okay?" He just stared at her for a moment. "Okay," she prodded again. His cheek twitched and he grunted, the most half-hearted agreement in existence. She hugged him. She then got up and led him to the office. Entering in, they saw Chiriku getting things together. This had at one time been Chukaku's office before he passed on. Chiriku looked back. "Ah, Karin, Sasuke, Sora, I'm glad you guys are here." "What's going on?" Karin asked. "The monks are all preparing to search for the enemy." "And us?" she asked. Chiriku then spoke. "You'll be coming with me. I can't leave you here alone. The other monks are all leaving to look for the enemy, and I will be leaving with Sora, but I can't leave you and Sasuke." "Who even are these guys anyway?" Sora asked. "They're former members of the 12 Guardian Ninja of the Daimyo, 12 ninjas specifically picked out for being elite shinobi. At some point, there was a schism between the 12 and they split in half, 6 going one way and 6 going the other. During the course of the events, 2 of the enemy shinobi were killed, leaving 4, and on the good side, 4 of them perished. Those 4 were the bodies you were protecting." Sora seemed to understand. "But what difference does it make? They're dead bodies. What good can they do?" They may be bodies, Chiriku said, but that doesn't mean that they're not dangerous. There are many techniques that shinobi can use, and if at any time one can manage to find a way to revive the dead, even as an empty shell, which of course is possible according to historical documents, that would mean that the technique of these 4 shinobi is available to them, and the power of these 4 shinobi is enough to change the world forever. Just one blast from their combined technique can wipe a village off the face of the planet forever. That's insane, Sora said. If that's what it was, why didn't we incinerate their bodies so nobody could use them again? Chukaku looked away shamefully. That's when Sora understood. You kept them around because you planned to use them again. Karin was shocked. Master? Chukaku sat down as he rubbed his face. He began to explain. I was a member of the 12 Guardian Ninja back in the day, and I was a member of the group that stayed loyal. The enemy group believed that there should be no other heads of state besides the daimyo. That being said, the Hokage, the Kazekage, the Tsuchikage, Raikage, and Mizukage were all targets of this group. They believed that the splitting of power between 2 different military forces within the same country was a brewing pot for civil war. They believed that hidden villages should be under the direct command of the daimyo at all times, and that they should unquestionably follow his or her orders. To that end, they tried to take these 4 shinobi by force to use against the villages, but before they could go against the villages, they were driven off, and the 4 shinobi sacrificed their lives to keep this power out of the fallen guardians' hands. Despite that, when we were considering cremating them, the daimyo stopped us. Though the fallen guardians were traitors for disobeying direct command and acting against the daimyo's wishes, what the guardians had said struck the daimyo. He began to fear the concept of Konoha. What if they turned against him? Konoha had a tailed beast, and that alone could level the land of fire. He had come to realize that the Hokage was perhaps the most powerful man in the world, even more so than the daimyo. He needed a contingency plan should a civil war ever break out, an ace in the hole as it were, and that would be the 4 Guardian Ninja. The daimyo, needing a deterrent, left their bodies uncremated just in case. I, being the last Guardian Ninja still in the service of the daimyo, was given control of the bodies and told to guard them with my life. Wait, just you? I thought you said there was another, Karin said. Chiriku nodded. There was, but he left the daimyo's command ages ago. He currently resides in Konoha as a master to the next generation of Leaf Nin. That being said, a Konoha shinobi cannot be entrusted with the contingency plans to destroy his own village in case of an uprising. That's why I was chosen as the one to guard the bodies. I see, Sora said. It made enough sense to him that he no longer remained angry. If anything, he came to realize that the fallen guardians weren't entirely wrong for their point of view, if even the daimyo realized the necessity of a deterrent. But he did disagree with their decision to act upon it without orders, something that he agreed with Chiriku about. That being said, the next question was a simple one. Where are we going? I need to contact my old friend in Konoha. We can't be certain about where the fallen 4 are going, but if I were to guess, I would say Konoha would be a good first lead. That's why I need you to gather your things. We're heading out as soon as possible. Sora nodded and began to leave. Karin and Sasuke would also head to their room and proceed to gather the items they thought they would need. An extra change of clothes and some food and water. Once all of that was gathered, they'd proceed to leave with Chiriku together. They walked under the umbrella until eventually the clouds parted and the sun began to shine. It was as if Chukaku were offering them a parting wish of good fortune for their mission. They would stop to eat and sleep every so often, but eventually they made it to the gate of Konoha. Big gates, Karin said. Thought they'd be more impressive though. And what's with the welcoming graffiti, she asked. That was until the gate opened up to them, displaying the vastness of the village, all set before the background of a steep rock face in which the faces of many formidable shinobi, previous Hokage, were born. Whoa, Karin said in shock as she witnessed the greatness of the village. There's no wonder that daimyo fears this place. If they can make their village look like this and prosper, then surely they must be powerful. This looks almost like a second capital for the country, she said. I remember my first time here, Chiriku said. My thoughts were the same as yours. I still find myself awe-inspired by its beauty. It's even more beautiful at night. Chiriku looked back. Sora, I want you to find us a place to stay. Me and the others will head to the Hokage's office to speak to my former comrade and see if we can link up resources to find the threat. Sora nodded and headed off to find a good place to stay. From there, they'd begin to move through the village. Sasuke's eyes were wide seeing how big it was. This place was nothing like Kusagakure. It was a real shinobi village. It was one of the 5 great villages. It dwarfed Kusa by comparison. So many places to eat, so many shops to visit. It was a tourist's paradise. It was a beacon of peace in a world overshadowed by war. As they moved closer to the Hokage's monument, they also drew closer to their destination. Seeing the building where the Hokage tended to gather, Chiriku walked into the front desk and asked if the Hokage were free, and if not, when he could make an appointment for. Just before the receptionist was to give him an answer, the door behind him opened. Chiriku! A voice called out. The monk turned around to see a man with jet black hair, slightly spiked, and a chin-strap beard that almost looked like it was trying to keep his fantastic hair attached to his head. "Asuma," Chiriku called back. The two buddies giggled and hugged each other. Asuma then spoke. "Chiriku, I thought that was you. I'd spot that shiny head of yours anywhere." Chiriku laughed. "As soon as I smelled the cigarettes and heard the smoker's hack, I knew it was you." They pulled away from their embrace, Asuma taking his old brother in arms by the ear in a loving way. "What brings you here, Chiru? I hope all is well." Chiriku took a breath and sighed through his distress, his smile dulling as he recalled the trouble. "Something is wrong, I take it," Asuma said with a certain gravity as he understood Chiriku's reaction. "Come, I'll take you in to see my father. He'll help." Asuma bypassed the protesting receptionist and led the group into Hiruzen's office. "Father, I'm sure you remember my old friend, Chiriku." Hiruzen looked up from his papers, removing the pipe from his mouth as he smiled, his nose billowing out smoke like two ancient volcanic vents. "Of course." Hiruzen stood and offered the two seats in front of the desk for the group to sit. Karin and Sasuke both sat in one chair as the other was filled by Chiriku, who, despite wishing to remain humble, couldn't help but get off his feet. "So, what brings you here?" Hiruzen asked. "I was here to ask for aid." "Aid in what?" Hiruzen questioned. "Aid in our search for the 4 fallen guardian ninja." The air in the room seemed to grow tenser as Chiriku continued. "The 4 attacked the temple a few nights before last, and during that time they took the bodies of the 4 shinobi who were capable of that technique. I'm afraid of what they plan to do with them." Hiruzen nodded. "Limelight, the technique that shines down light from the heavens to the destruction of the Land of Fire's enemies." Asuma groans. "Yeah, I was afraid of that," Asuma said. "What do you have need of?" Hiruzen asked. "We need people to help us search for them. Considering their past, it only makes sense that they're planning on taking out one of the great ninja villages. But of all logical places I could assume they would attack, I believe it would be Konoha, since it's the greatest of all 5 villages, and the one that exists within the Land of Fire they so fervently love." Hiruzen nodded. "We will offer our help in any way we can." Chiriku nodded. "Thank you." Chiriku then pulled something from his robe and handed it to Asuma. "What's this?" Asuma asked as he looked it over. "It's a letter addressed to you from Chukaku. His last words he wished to deliver to you." "Last words," Asuma said. "Damn, so the old man did pass on." Chiriku nodded. "Yes, I'm sorry." Asuma tucked the letter inside of his flak jacket. "It's okay, I'm sure you did everything you could do." As the adults were talking, Karin and Sasuke waited silently. It was at that moment that a young man rushed into the room holding a kunai, running at Hiruzen before falling on his face. "Konohamaru," Asuma shouted as Hiruzen smiled and shook his head. An older boy with gold and yellow hair, no older than Sora, stepped in and grabbed Konohamaru by the ankle. "I'm sorry, Lord Third, he just got away from me." "It's fine, Naruto. I'm sure you're doing your best. Konohamaru's just a little firebrand." Naruto began pulling Konohamaru back out the door. This turn of events caught Sasuke's attention. Karin noticed this, as did Hiruzen. "Please forgive my grandsons. They mean no harm. They're just very playful and rambunctious." Hiruzen sat for a moment. "I have an idea. Why don't you kids go off and play with my grandchildren while the adults do all the boring talking?" Karin looked down. "You want to go play, Sasu?" Sasuke nodded slowly as he kept his eyes fixated on the now closed door. Karin helped them get up and the two of them followed after. Opening the door, they found a long corridor that seemed mostly empty except for one Anbu member that seemed to be walking and carrying a document labeled confidential. Sasuke couldn't help but look at the man's strange fox-shaped mask. The man looked down at Sasuke as well. Karin then pulled Sasuke away. "Sorry, we're just looking for the Hokage's grandchildren." The Anbu looked around and then pointed to a door. Karin smiled. "Thank you." The Anbu offered a thumbs up before continuing on his way. Karin and Sasuke entered the room to see that the yellow-haired boy had tied his young charge to a chair. "What have I said about trying to kill Grandpa? I will become Hokage one day, no matter the cost," the boy shouted as he rocked on the chair, causing it to fall over. Sasuke watched, his hand holding closely to Karin's. Naruto looked up at them and walked forward. He offered a slight bow. "Hey, please forgive my kid brother. He's not yet able to control his own actions. I'm Naruto." "Hi, Naruto," Karin said. "My name's Karin, and this is my own kid brother, Sasuke." Naruto knelt down and smiled, patting the boy on the head. "Sasuke, I like that name. Seems familiar to me somehow." Karin looked over. "And that's your brother, Konohamaru?" "If you don't mind me saying, you two don't look very similar." "That's because I'm adopted," Naruto said. "My actual name is Naruto Uzumaki, but I've taken on the name Sarutobi because Mr. Hiruzen's taken it upon himself to raise me." "Wait, you're an Uzumaki too?" Karin said. Naruto was shocked. "Wait, you guys are Uzumaki?" Sora found a nice place to stay, a hotel that mixed quality with affordability. "Stockpot Inn," he said as he looked back at the hotel while holding the keys to their room number. He began to make his way toward the Hokage's monument. That was until a hand reached out from the darkness and grabbed Sora, pulling him into an alleyway. Sora struggled and prepared to fight, but was effortlessly subdued by a man with white hair. Who are you?" he demanded. "Call me Furido." Sora looked at him closer. You're one of the 4 who stole the bodies. Sora fought against him. I'll kill you. Furido struggled to hold Sora. Be calm. I'm not here to hurt you. You killed Chukaku. Furido covered the boy's mouth. The old man died on his own. He overused his own chakra. Furido let go of Sora's mouth for a moment. I don't want to hurt you, Sora, he said. Liar, you nearly beat me to death that night. Don't be overdramatic. You managed to walk all the way back to the temple by yourself. You were fine. Sora then spoke. Where are the bodies? They're with us. Give them back, he demanded. Furido shook his head. If you understood what was happening at all, you'd agree with us. Understood what? Sora asked. Furido continued. If you could understand what your father stood for, things would be different. You wouldn't be on their side. My father? How do you know my father? Sora asked. Because he was one of the 12 Guardian Ninja who sided with us. He's the reason why you're a partial Jinchuriki of the Ninetales. Sora shook his head. That's not true. It is. I was there when the Ninetales' energy was sealed inside of you. You were but a baby, and the Ninetales escaped its Jinchuriki, the 4th Hokage's wife. I witnessed the devastation caused by the beast. The whole world did. That's why your father tried to seal it away inside of you, and why we later tried to destroy Konoha. There comes a point where having 2 governments in your nation becomes too dangerous, especially if the smaller government possesses more firepower. What happened in the Leaf that night is what could have happened anywhere. Your father tried to hijack the Ninetales and seal it away in you so the village wouldn't have the ability to retaliate against the Land of Fire, no matter what decisions we made. We never betrayed the daimyo. Chiriku did. Sora shook his head. I refuse to believe that. Furido looked down and shook his head. You know the man Chiriku is here to see? Asuma? His surname is Sarutobi. He's the son of the Hokage. Chiriku and Asuma were always allied with the Hokage over the daimyo. Then, when Asuma killed your father, he sent you to Chiriku to ensure that we would never again stand against the daimyo. Chiriku is the one who betrayed the daimyo. He didn't save the bodies to help the daimyo, but to add to the war machine for when Konoha rises up. Your father wasn't a traitor, he was a patriot. Sora listened to what the man was saying. How can I believe what you say? Furido sighed. Has Chiriku never told you who your father was? Sora shook his head. Furido nodded. Then that's proof enough. That nagging voice in you saying what Chiriku is saying doesn't make sense, follow that voice. Don't let yourself be deceived. Your father was a patriot and he was murdered by Asuma and Chiriku. If you need further proof, then know this. I was there when your father sealed part of the Ninetales into you. I can offer you more access to it. Upon your command, you can summon its strength. Use it to avenge your father. Furido would then use the 5 elements unseal technique to open a part of the seal on Sora's power. Sora felt it flow through him. He heard the roar and sensed an old memory. In this way, Sora knew that what Furido was saying must be true. Tears of betrayal began to roll down his cheeks. Furido put his hand on Sora's shoulder. Your father would have been so proud of you, Sora. Furido then disappeared. Sora thought about everything. He saw imprints of the Ninetales as memories and imprints of his own. His father truly was killed by Asuma and Chiriku. That explained why Chiriku was always so cold to him. He lied to me. That bastard lied to me. He kept thinking about Chiriku more and more. He then proceeded to run toward the Hokage monument, searching for the Hokage's home, all the while the sun was setting over the village. Asuma! Naruto and Karin were talking when Sasuke and Konohamaru were playing around with each other. Man, Naruto said as he looked over the bite marks on Karin's arm. They made you guys do that? I'm sorry, he said. It's not your fault. We just got swept up in a bad village. Why didn't you come to Konoha instead? Naruto asked. My mom told me it was because Konoha was a close friend of the Uzumaki, but when the Uzumaki needed them most, they weren't there. My parents saw things that they could never shake, and they said that if Konoha had been there, the Uzoshio would still be here. Naruto lowered his head. I'm sorry to hear about that, but Konoha is a great place to live, and Mr. Hirazen's even planning to help me reform my clan eventually. Why don't you move here to Konoha? We'll take care of you, and then we can rebuild the clan together. Karin was surprised. She looked at Sasuke and then down at her own garb. I don't think that we can, she said. We have responsibilities right now that we have to take care of. Maybe one day, but not now. Naruto nodded. I understand. It was at about then that Chiriku and Asuma appeared. We're about to head out and start searching for the ones who stole the bodies. Before we go, we're gonna drop you and Sasuke off at the inn and collect Sora. Does that sound good? Karin nodded. Sasu, time to go. Sasuke walked over to Karin. Naruto pulled out a piece of paper. Here, this is my phone number. Send me a text when you get home. I'd like to get to know more about my cousins. I didn't think I had any family left, and the idea that I have more family out there is exciting. Karin took it. I don't have a phone, but I'll figure something out. She got up and began to follow Chiriku and Asuma. Naruto followed them to see them off, while poor Konohamaru remained tied to a chair in the darkness. Hello? They walked to the outside. As soon as they passed through the doors, they saw him in the distance. Is that Sora? Chiriku asked. Hey Sora, over here! Sora then ran toward them before descending to all fours. Chiriku was shocked. He had a bad feeling about this. Sora tackled both Chiriku and Asuma, a red bubbling chakra around him. At that moment, Naruto would tackle Sora off of them with his own version 1 cloak activated. Sora rolled before getting to his feet. Naruto stood there against him. "So, you're like me," Naruto said. "Sora, what's gotten into you?" "You lied to me, Chiriku. You and Asuma killed my father. You never told me the truth. You were the traitors." "Who told you that?" Asuma asked. Sora rushed at them again and pushed them back. "My father's friend, Furido did. One of the guardian ninja you failed to kill." "Sora," Asuma said. "There was nobody on the team named Furido." Sora was confused. "What?" Chiriku sat up. "Sora, you're right about one thing. I lied to you. I didn't tell you the truth. Your father was a man named Kazuma. He was one of the more powerful shinobi in the group. He was the one who sealed the part of the Nine Tails into you. He wanted to use you as a weapon when the guardian ninja capable of using limelight sided with us, but we rescued you from that situation. Why didn't you tell me?" Sora demanded to know. "Because we didn't want you looking into it," Asuma said. "The reason being, we never killed your father." Sora was shocked. My father's alive?" Asuma nodded. Chiriku then spoke. "Likely the one you talked to was Kazuma. Did he have long white hair and a scar on the left side of his face?" Sora nodded. "Then that was Kazuma," Chiriku said. Sora fell to his knees. "I'm so confused." Suddenly he doubled over. "Ugh." Chiriku came close to him. "Sora, what's wrong?" He let out a roar as his energy spiked. "He's transforming. The seal was broken." At about that moment, they noticed an orb forming in the sky. "The jutsu is beginning," Asuma said. "I need to get to one of the bodies now. If I can destroy one, I can stop the technique." Asuma ran inside and told the receptionist to call up Team Row and have them start taking out the other bodies in the other directions. Asuma then ran outside and began heading toward one of the bodies himself. Meanwhile, Chiriku and the others stood there as Sora took on his version 2 cloak. Naruto began backing up. "Can you match that, Naruto?" Karin asked. Naruto shook his head. "I activated version 2 once, but it didn't end well. Haven't tried since." Sora rushed at him and began to attack Naruto. Naruto managed to defend himself, but as their two chakras collided, Naruto found his own cloak being corrupted by the version 2 cloak of Sora. Naruto's hand was in version 2 while the rest of his body had been left in version 1, but slowly the crimson shell was trying to climb his arm. He was trying to will it to stay. Sora attempted to then attack Karin, but Chiriku jumped in the way, taking the shot and falling to the ground with a cry. Karin caught him. As Sora went in to finish him, Karin screamed. Suddenly, Sora disappeared. Karin was confused. What happened? Naruto spoke. "Summoning jutsu. Kazuma must have summoned Sora to his location." Naruto looked down at his hand. "Are you okay?" Karin asked. Naruto nodded. "I think I can reseal it, but dealing with Sora is going to be dangerous. My chakra resonates with his, meaning that if he's in version 2 and we touch, I'll start entering it too. Then we have 2 issues on our hands." With a growl of determination and focus, Naruto seals the power back up inside of him. Karin looks at the wounded Chiriku. She then rolls up her sleeve. "Master, bite my arm." Chiriku looks up and shakes his head. "No, I can't. I won't. Not after what those people did to you." She shakes her head. "Don't be silly. Just do it. Please." Chiriku thinks about it and sees the attack building in the sky. Fine. He bites into her arm, drawing tears of pain. This returns Chiriku to his full strength, healing him. He then attempts to return the favor with the Mystic Palm technique to heal her arm in the hopes that it wouldn't scar. He stands. "We need to go help Asuma now," he said. The group proceeds to run out toward the direction Asuma went. When they get there, they see Asuma on the defensive, Sora and Kazuma on the attack together. They rush in to help. Chiriku joins the fight against Kazuma, but Sora breaks off to face Naruto, Karin, and Sasuke. Sora jumps at them only for Naruto to jump in the way and push Sora off. His hand becomes corrupted by the version 2 shell. "Naruto, be careful," Karin yells. "It's fine. I'm fine. If anything, maybe it'll help me get through the shell of Sora's. Maybe I can break through." The two of them begin to fight, and slowly but surely Naruto continues to grow more and more corrupted. All the while, Asuma and Chiriku are on the defensive. Despite outnumbering the two of them, it still seems like Kazuma and Sora are winning. Karin attempts to summon her adamantine chains and hopes that their sealing abilities will help Naruto. Sasuke stands there by himself. He looks on and begins to wonder what he can do. He's not as strong as the others, or as smart. He feels helpless. "You're far from helpless," a voice came to him. He couldn't see who said it, but he knew. "Mama," he said. He felt a hand on his shoulder. He remembered when Chukaku used to do the same thing. "Remember what I taught you," Chukaku's voice said. At about that time, Karin and Naruto were battered and bruised, weakened but victorious. Sora had been returned to normal, and a new seal was placed on him to keep the power inside. But at the same time, Chiriku and Asuma were pushed back by Kazuma, whose strength had outperformed theirs tremendously. Asuma and Chiriku were sent flying back and left barely conscious. Karin and Naruto, knowing that they had no other choice, ran in to counter this and tried to reverse the situation on Kazuma, but considering that they were already so weak, there wasn't anything they could really do. Eventually, they too were knocked back. Kazuma was the last one standing, victorious. Karin lay there, Naruto hardly conscious beside her. As Kazuma approached, he spoke. "It's a shame that you can never understand the truth of what I'm fighting for. Your village is a military superpower unto itself, and if ever pushed into a conflict with the rest of the country, it would destroy everything." "You're going to murder countless men, women, and children," Karin shouted. Kazuma sighed. "A small price to pay for the security of the nation. Just sit there and watch. You'll be safer here." Karin attempted to rise to her knees. "I will stop you." Kazuma shook his head. "Foolish girl. It didn't have to end this way." Kazuma brought his staff to bear, ready to finish her off. That was when Sasuke stepped between her and him. "Sasu, no! Run away!" He shook his head. "I'll protect you now," he said. Kazuma laughed. "What could one as weak as you do?" he asked. Sasuke closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He formed a half-ram sign as he extended his hand down. Chiriku opened his eyes to see it. "Impossible! How can he know how to do that? Welcoming approach. 1,000-armed murder. It takes years to master the gift of the hermits, and years longer to master this technique. What kind of prodigy is this?" Sasuke forms the chakra avatar and proceeds to use it to pummel Kazuma. Kazuma is struck. After being hit, his temper flares. He properly defends himself. Sasuke walks forward as his technique follows. Hitting the ground, Kazuma spits blood in rage. "So what? You have a gimmick like the old man. It won't save you." He rushes Sasuke, but Sasuke doesn't back down. "All at once," he shouts. Every arm strikes out at Kazuma in an instant, hitting him and sending him flying back. He collides with the body of the guardian ninja preparing limelight and is knocked into the beam. He takes the entirety of the electric pulse of the attack. He cries out as his body is fried. The voltage is so vicious that his body catches fire. He knocks the body over, both being set on fire and perishing together. With that, the limelight technique is ended. Karin sits there as Chiriku watches in awe. The avatar vanishes, but suddenly Sasuke falls over. Karin scrambles to her feet and runs to him. She lifts him up as Chiriku follows behind. "Sasu," she asks. "Sasu, are you okay?" Chiriku checks on him. He's still alive, just unconscious. No wonder. He's got an impressive chakra well, but hasn't mastered this technique. It's probably very harsh on him. He just needs some rest. Chiriku looks at the burning bodies, watching both of his former comrades, one traitor and the other not, turn to ash. "Maybe it's always been better this way," Chiriku said. "I had thought that for a time that maybe Kazuma was right. Maybe there was too much power in Konoha. Maybe we did need a deterrent. But in honesty, I don't think power like this should be in any one person's hands." As the night passed, morning came. Overnight, Kazuma's compatriots had all been defeated and the bodies captured. Without the complete set, there would be no use in trying to utilize limelight again, so Chiriku ordered to have the bodies cremated and interred in Konoha's cemetery as heroes. Despite Kazuma's extremes, he was also interred there. Asuma believed that even if his means weren't correct, his ideals were selfless and all for the sake of the nation. That seemed enough to qualify him. Everyone rested from their battles, but eventually the time came where they had to leave. As they were readying to go, Chiriku spoke. "I think it's best that you stay here in Konoha," he said. "What? Why?" Karin asked, shocked that Chiriku would say such a thing. Chiriku began to explain. "Konoha is the best place for you. You will be protected here, and as Uzumaki, it's best that your clans stick together. You, Naruto, and Sasuke are the future of your people, and the only chance that your village can ever come back. I would be selfish to keep you all to myself." "But what about us?" Karin said. "Why can't we make the decision about our lives?" she said. Chiriku knelt down with her and Sasuke. "Because in the end, you have a responsibility. And it's not to me, nor to Sora, nor to the Fire Temple. Your responsibility is to your clan." Chiriku seemed like he was beginning to lose composure. "It truly was nice to meet you two, and I promise to write and visit when I can." Karin and Sasuke began to cry as he hugged them. Even Sora was having a hard time fighting back emotion. He joined in on the hug as well. After the moment passed, Chiriku pulled back. "Asuma will take care of you. Mind what he says, alright?" Karin and Sasuke nod. They then watch as Chiriku walks away. Naruto, standing nearby, puts his hands on their shoulders. "Your master is a really awesome guy. I'm glad he let you stay. I could use a family, and from what he's told me, so can you." And that's where we're gonna call it. That was the last episode I had planned. I'd like to think that Karin and Sasuke helped Naruto rebuild their village. That being said, even if this is the last planned episode, if we get enough views and enough people want to see more of it, we might make a special 4th part. If you would like to see that, tell us about it down below and leave a like. This will help us know how much you enjoyed it and how much you want to see more. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell too. Anyway, until next time, peace out.